What the hell happened to this place? Gregory Barnes muttered as he stared at the latest customer complaint report on his laptop. The diner was the third location he ever opened back when he still flipped eggs and scrubbed grills himself. Now, 8 locations strong, the business ran under district oversight, or at least it was supposed to. He hadn't been to this diner in almost 2 years, not since promoting someone else to oversee daily operations while he focused on expansion, but the complaints kept stacking up. Cold food. Rude staff, long waits. Gregory rubbed his face. "I built this place with my hands," he said to no one. "This isn't how we treat people." He didn't want another filtered report from a district manager. He wanted the truth, so he made the call. 2 days later, Gary Benton, a scruffy out-of-work short-order cook with a southern drawl and a limp from an old roofing accident, was hired as a trainee for the morning shift. The disguise was solid gray beard, thick glasses, and a cheap diner uniform from a supply closet. No one recognized him. Why would they? Gregory hadn't personally met any of the newer staff at this location. The place had high turnover, and according to HR, the current manager had only been there 6 months. He arrived at 5 in the morning. The diner doors opened at 6. Inside was chaos. "Gary Wright," said a girl in her 20s, tying her apron with one hand while fixing her ponytail with the other. "You're on dish duty, follow me. Name's Bonnie," she added. "Don't let the manager catch you standing around. He's a Bonnie," barked a voice from behind the kitchen window. A tall man with gelled hair and a clipboard came storming through the swinging door. "Where the hell is Casey?" Bonnie flinched. "She texted last night, said she was sick." "Again?" He threw his clipboard on the prep counter. "You're covering her section." "I already have 4 tables." "Then I guess you'd better move faster." Gregory watched as Bonnie took a deep breath and nodded. She didn't fight it. She just turned and got to work. The manager, whose name tag read Craig, turned to Gregory. "You the new guy?" "Yes, sir." "Stay out of the way. Scrub dishes. If I catch you sitting, you're gone." Gregory nodded. "Understood." The next 3 hours were a blur of clattering plates, shouting cooks, and customers waving for coffee refills. Bonnie was everywhere, balancing trays, refilling condiments, running food, clearing tables. She never stopped moving, but Gregory noticed something else. Every time a customer complained or a mistake happened, Craig blamed the staff. Loudly. Publicly. At one point, a teenage busboy dropped a tray of glasses. Craig stormed over, red-faced. "You think we're made of money? You break one more thing, you're paying for it." The boy's face turned pale. Bonnie stepped in. "It was an accident, Craig." He slipped on the wet tile. Craig snapped. "You want to cover his paycheck too?" She didn't answer. Just went back to her tables. Gregory's hands were soaked in dishwater, but his mind was spinning. This wasn't leadership. It was bullying. Then, just after 9, the front door swung open. In walked a girl with tired eyes and a hoodie. Casey, presumably. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. Craig stormed to the front. "You're late." "I told you I was sick," she croaked. "You look fine now." "I'm not. I just came to say my doctor said I need rest." "I'm dropping off my note." He snatched the paper from her hand, glanced at it, and tossed it on the counter. "You've missed 3 shifts in 2 months. I had the flu and now I'm done." "You're done. Turn in your uniform." Gregory froze mid-scrub. The diner went silent. Bonnie, standing nearby, looked shocked. "You're firing her?" Bonnie asked. "She's unreliable. She's sick." Craig turned. "You want to join her?" Bonnie's jaw clenched. "I've covered for her. Every time I've stayed late. I've come in early. I haven't seen my kid in 2 days." "I'm not working a double today." Craig's voice dropped. "Say that again." "I'm not working a double today. You're done too." "What? You don't tell me your schedule, I tell you." "I'm not quitting," Bonnie said, shaking. "I just can't today. I need to pick up my daughter." "I told you this last week." Craig nodded to himself, walked to the back, and returned with a pink slip. Gregory stood frozen at the sink, water dripping from his gloves. This couldn't be real. "Turn in your apron, Bonnie." She looked around the diner. No one moved, no one said a word. She untied her apron slowly and handed it over. Gregory's heart raced. He couldn't speak. Not yet. Bonnie walked toward the door, eyes glassy. Before she stepped out, she looked back. I loved this job, she said, but not like this. And then she was gone. Gregory stood there, stunned. A good employee fired for protecting her child. He couldn't stay silent much longer. Gregory didn't move for nearly a full minute. Bonnie's apron still lay folded on the counter, untouched. The kitchen had gone eerily quiet except for the hiss of the fryer and the distant chatter of customers unaware of what just happened. Craig slapped a fresh ticket onto the window and started barking at the line cook about undercooked eggs like nothing had occurred. No one challenged him. No one even looked up. "Gary," Craig shouted, waving a hand toward the dish pit. "You're behind. Let's go." Gregory picked up the pace, not responding. He needed more time, more pieces of the puzzle. Bonnie was gone, but her words hadn't left the room. And the more he watched Craig, the more questions piled up in his head. By late morning, the floor was down to 2 servers hustling between booths. One was a man in his 50s with a stiff knee who looked like he'd been here since the walls were built. The other was a young woman barely out of high school, her face flushed from rushing between tables. Neither of them spoke to Craig unless they had to. Orders were backed up. Customers were waiting 10, sometimes 15 minutes before anyone even approached their table. The kitchen was just as tense. Gregory had been assigned to help prep after the dish bins overflowed. The line cook, Lewis, barely spoke. He moved with speed but not focus. Twice he had to remake orders after confusing tickets, then got chewed out for wasting ingredients. "You ever get a break around here?" Gregory asked quietly while sliding a fresh stack of plates onto the rack. Lewis didn't look up. "You learn not to ask. You've been here long, too long." He wiped his forehead with the back of his wrist. "But I can't afford to leave. Got 2 kids. Gregory nodded. "You like working for Craig?" Lewis let out a dry breath. "I like getting paid." That's about it. The bell above the front door chimed. Gregory glanced up and saw an older couple step inside. They looked confused, glancing around for someone to greet them. No one moved. The host's stand had been unmanned since Bonnie left. The teenage server spotted them from the far end of the room and jogged over, apologizing as she led them to a booth. Gregory turned back to the kitchen just in time to hear Craig on the phone in the manager's office. The door was slightly ajar. "I don't care if she has a doctor's note. She's dragging morale down anyway. I need people who want to work." A pause. "No, I'm not writing her up again. She's done. Get someone from the other location to cover if you have to." Another pause. "Bonnie, she's been getting too comfortable, always pushing back." She had it coming. Gregory's jaw tightened. He stepped back from the prep station, walked toward the office door and knocked. Craig looked up, surprised. "What?" "Sorry to interrupt. There's no one at the front. Customers are coming in with no greet." Craig waved him off. "Tell them to seat themselves. We're short." "They're already seated. No menus, though." "Then grab some menus." Gregory turned slowly and walked back to the front, grabbed a stack of laminated menus and carried them to the couple. They smiled politely, thanked him. He noticed their water glasses were still empty. No one had time to fill them. "Sorry about the wait," he said quietly. "We're down staff today." The woman smiled with a touch of sympathy. "It's all right. We come here every Sunday, but this is the worst it's ever been." He nodded once. "Appreciate your patience." Back in the kitchen, the line was falling further behind. A family of 5 had just walked in, and the teen server looked like she might cry. Gregory jumped in, grabbing silverware rolls and refilling the coffee pots. He wasn't supposed to interact with customers, but Craig hadn't noticed or didn't care. The older server, whose name tag read Mitch, finally spoke up when Gregory helped him bus a booth. "You've worked in diners before, haven't you?" Gregory kept his tone casual. "Couple places. You move like you know what you're doing. That's rare here. How long you been with this one?" "Since it opened." "Was good back then. Clean systems, staff meetings, real training." Mitch loaded a tray with dirty plates. "But we've had 5 managers in 18 months. Craig's the worst of them." "What's he do that's different?" Mitch gave a hollow laugh. "What doesn't he do?" Schedules come out less than a day before the week starts. He cancels shifts last minute. He has favorites, and if you're not one, you're invisible. I've seen him dock hours for things that weren't even in our control. Gregory frowned. Like what? Kitchen runs out of tomatoes. Your fault. AC breaks. Your fault. He likes someone. They get weekends off. You speak up. Mitch loaded the tray onto the bus cart. You're gone. You ever tell corporate? I tried, got a call back from some HR guy, took notes. Nothing changed. Gregory lowered his voice. Would you say it's affecting customer experience? It's affecting everything. I've got regulars who stopped coming. We've had 3 servers quit in the last month. 1 walked out mid-shift. Gregory nodded, then excused himself and headed toward the back walk-in cooler. He needed a moment to think. Once inside, he pulled the door shut and leaned against the metal wall, his breath visible in the chilled air. This wasn't mismanagement. It was erosion, slow, corrosive, and spreading. Bonnie wasn't the only one cracking under pressure. Casey had been pushed out. Lewis was hanging on by a thread. Mitch was burned out. The teen server was barely keeping it together. Gregory pressed his palms to his eyes and took a deep breath. He couldn't reveal himself yet. Not until he saw how deep this went back on the floor. Things were unraveling fast. Orders were delayed. The printer jammed. A customer at the counter started raising his voice about his omelet missing cheese. Craig appeared from the back, looked around, and zeroed in on the teen server. You took that table, right? She blinked. I entered it like normal. Well, it didn't come through. Fix it? I already fix it. Gregory stepped in. Could have been the printer. It jammed earlier. I cleared it. Craig turned, annoyed. Did I ask you? No, sir. Just thought you should know. Craig stared at him for a beat, then turned back to the girl. Get it done. She nodded quickly and rushed off. That afternoon, the lull between lunch and dinner gave just enough space for people to breathe. Craig disappeared into the office. Gregory used the moment to pull Mitch aside near the prep station. You think he's skimming? Mitch looked up sharply. What? Payroll manipulation, scheduling people then cutting them mid-shift, keeping the budget under while claiming full hours. Mitch narrowed his eyes. You hear that somewhere? Just a hunch. Then it's a good one. I've seen my hours drop on paper from 40 to 32. No explanation, but we clock in manually. He fills out the digital report. Gregory's stomach sank. That was theft, straight up. Before he could ask more, Lewis called from the grill. We're out of bacon. What? Mitch said. Lewis held up an empty box. All gone, no backup, Mitch sighed. That's the 3rd thing this week. They checked the freezer. Nothing. Craig had apparently skipped the last reorder. Gregory glanced at the clipboard taped to the wall. Inventory hadn't been updated in 10 days. Customers started asking questions. One woman walked up to the counter, frustrated. Why aren't you serving half the breakfast menu? Mitch tried to explain, but her voice rose. This is unacceptable. You've got 2 people running the whole place while the staff hides in the back. Who's in charge here? Craig finally emerged, clearly annoyed. I'm the manager. What's the issue? She didn't hold back. I've been coming here for years. This is the worst I've ever seen it. No bacon, no coffee refills, and your staff looks like they're about to collapse. Craig raised his hands. We're short-staffed, doing our best. You've got people with sweat on their faces and no help. If this is your best, I'm not coming back, she stormed out. Craig turned to the rest of the room, furious. You see what happens when people don't do their jobs? Gregory's voice cut through the tension. You're right, we do see. Craig blinked, caught off guard. What? Gregory stepped forward and pulled off his glasses. I'm not Gary. I'm Gregory Barnes. I own this company. Silence. Craig's mouth opened, then closed. Gregory set the glasses down on the counter. And we need to talk. Craig didn't speak. His jaw shifted once, then locked in place. The line cook froze mid-motion. The teen server, still holding a pitcher of orange juice, stood completely still. Mitch leaned slightly against the counter, arms crossed, watching. I said, Gregory repeated, stepping closer, we need to talk. Craig's voice came out hoarse. You're Gregory Barnes. I've owned this diner since the day it opened. You know that, right? Craig's gaze darted toward the office. Yeah, of course, I just didn't recognize, that's the idea." Gregory's tone was even, but his eyes didn't waver. "I've been working side by side with this team for 8 hours. I've seen enough." Lewis stepped away from the grill slowly, wiping his hands. The teen server lowered the juice pitcher onto the counter with a soft clink. Mitch didn't move. "Let's go in the office," Craig said quietly, his voice suddenly subdued. "No," Gregory replied. "We're not doing this behind closed doors, not after what I've seen today." Craig adjusted his sleeves. "Look, I know things aren't perfect." Gregory's voice rose just enough to cut him off. "You think this is about perfection? I watched you fire someone for needing to pick up her daughter. I saw you dress down a sick cashier in front of staff. I've seen you deflect, blame, and dismiss every person in this building since the moment I stepped in." Craig opened his mouth again, but Gregory's hand came up. "You'll have a chance to speak, but first I want to hear from them." He turned to the teen server. "What's your name?" "Emily," she said quickly, almost apologetically. "When was your last break?" She blinked. "I don't think I've had one today." "What time did you clock in?" 6:30. Gregory turned to Craig. "You scheduled a teenager for a double with no break." Craig shifted his weight. "She didn't ask for one. She shouldn't have to." Gregory looked back at Emily. "Go sit down." "You're done for now. We'll cover." She nodded quickly and stepped toward the back with visible relief, her legs trembling slightly. Gregory turned to Lewis. "How long have you been covering grill on your own?" Lewis looked surprised to be addressed. "Since 7. No backup?" "No." "Do you normally do it alone?" He hesitated. "Sometimes, it depends. Today," Lewis nodded once. Gregory looked at Mitch. "You said earlier you've been here since the place opened. Do you remember a time when we ran shifts with this few people?" Mitch answered without hesitation. "Not once. Not even during storms. We always had coverage." Gregory turned back to Craig. "How do you explain this? How do you justify running a skeleton crew on a weekend morning with no prep, no backup, and no oversight?" Craig's tone shifted. "We've had budget cuts. I was told to manage labor. You were told to manage, not sabotage." Craig stepped forward. "You think I enjoy this? You think I want to deal with no-shows and lazy kids who can't handle pressure?" Gregory raised an eyebrow. "Lazy?" Craig motioned toward the kitchen. "They're soft. Half of them crumble the second someone raises their voice. I've had to hold this place together with duct tape since I got here." "You fired people who tried to help," Gregory said. "Bonnie picked up extra tables all morning and you made her choose between her child and her job." "She undermined me," Craig snapped. "She told me what she wasn't going to do. That's not how this works." Gregory stepped in closer, his voice low and clear. "You don't get to fire people for asserting boundaries. You don't get to decide that being a parent is disobedience. And you absolutely don't get to throw the word lazy around when you haven't lifted a single tray today." Craig's face reddened. "I don't need to prove anything. I've been managing restaurants for over 10 years. And yet," Gregory said, "you've managed to drive away staff, alienate customers, ignore maintenance, and create a culture of silence in less than 6 months. That's not management. That's neglect." Craig looked around as if hoping someone might step in. No one did. "Mitch," Gregory said, "can you finish the shift with Lewis if I bring in support from another location?" Mitch nodded. "I've got it." "Lewis?" "Yeah." Gregory turned to Craig. "You can collect your things. Your final paycheck will be processed today. Security will be here in 20 minutes. You're firing me." "I'm ending a mistake I made when I didn't check in on this place sooner." Craig stepped back, stunned. "You don't get it. This place will fall apart without someone calling the shots." "You're right," Gregory said, "which is why I'll be staying on site for the next week, personally." Craig stared at him another few seconds, then turned and stormed toward the office. The door slammed behind him. Gregory exhaled. He looked back at Lewis. "How's the grill holding up?" Lewis gave a half shrug. "Running hot, but I can keep it moving. I'll call in 2 people from the downtown location. They'll be here in under an hour. In the meantime, I'll help run food." Lewis nodded and returned to the grill. Gregory walked toward the back hallway where Emily was seated on a milk crate, sipping water from a paper cup. I'm sorry, he said. You shouldn't have had to handle all of that. She looked up, eyes wide. Are you really the I am, and I'm staying for a while, no more doubles. No more last-minute schedule changes unless it's an emergency. If you ever need a break, you take it, she nodded slowly. I'm going to make sure you're supported, not overworked. She blinked hard and gave a small nod. Gregory walked back through the kitchen, grabbed a clean rag and started wiping down the prep station beside Louis. Most owners don't do this, Louis said quietly. Most owners forget what it's like to be down here, Gregory replied. Mitch appeared beside him with a ticket in hand. 2 all-day breakfasts and a veggie omelet, no bacon, obviously. Gregory looked at him. When was the last time someone from corporate visited in person? Mitch thought for a second. Over a year ago, you were the last. That changes now, weekly visits. No more radio silence. Mitch nodded, then turned back toward the floor. By the time support staff arrived from the downtown diner, the energy inside the building had shifted. The air was still heavy, but the fear was gone. Gregory stayed through the end of the shift, helping mop the floor and restock dry goods. He didn't ask for attention. He didn't want thanks. He wanted to rebuild trust. As the last customer left and chairs were flipped onto tables, Gregory stood beside Louis and Mitch near the back door. Tomorrow morning we meet at 8, he said. Full staff, paid meeting. I want every idea, every concern, every gap in process on the table. Louis nodded. Mitch gave a tired thumbs up, and Bonnie, Gregory looked at both of them. Someone has her number, right? Mitch nodded. Yeah. I do. Call her. Tell her job's waiting, on her terms. Gregory grabbed his jacket from the hook near the dish pit and looked at the grime under his nails. He hadn't worked a line in years. But today it reminded him why he started, not to build locations, to build people. By 7:30 the next morning, the diner's back door swung open to the scent of freshly brewed coffee and the low hum of prep work. Gregory stood beside the dry goods shelves, clipboard in hand, checking off inventory with quiet focus. A new shift supervisor from the downtown location, a calm, detail-oriented woman named Naomi, was already reviewing the cooler logs. Louis was back on grill, this time with a second cook named Darnell, who had been loaned from another branch for the week. Mitch arrived early too, wearing a clean polo and carrying a folder of notes he'd written the night before. Not far behind him came Emily, looking freshly rested but hesitant, her eyes scanning for cues. Gregory gave her a nod. Glad you're here, he said. Come on in. We'll start in the office. Inside, the air was more still than it had been in months. The blinds were up. The dry erase board had been wiped clean. 5 staff members, including a dishwasher from the evening crew and one of the part-time servers, sat in chairs pulled from the break area, legs crossed, eyes alert. Bonnie entered last. Her apron was folded under her arm. She paused in the doorway, unsure. Gregory stood. There's a seat for you, she stepped in slowly. I wasn't sure I should come back. I was, Gregory replied, and I'm glad you did. She sat and the door clicked shut behind her. He stood in front of the group, steady. I want to start by saying something clearly. What happened here wasn't just a management failure, it was a culture failure, and that's on me. I stepped away too far for too long. I let the numbers speak louder than the people behind them. Nobody spoke. I can't fix what happened yesterday. But I can make sure it never happens again. Bonnie spoke first. What happens now? We start rebuilding, Gregory said. Today, we're launching a 2-week reset. That means no one is working alone, no one is scheduled back-to-back doubles. Every shift has backup. And we're bringing in a regional trainer to observe and adjust systems. You mean like, for customer service? Asked the part-time server. No, Gregory said, for fairness, for safety, for communication. Louis leaned forward slightly. And after the 2 weeks, then we do what we should have done all along. We stay connected. Every month I'll be here in person, not for a tour, to work, to listen. Naomi stepped forward from the side. I'll be supporting the transition, I'm not taking over. Just helping stabilize, Bonnie glanced at her. You from another location? Yes, downtown. I've been with the company for 6 years. My job is to make sure you're not running on fumes. Gregory looked around. Now I want to hear from all of you, unfiltered. What's broken? Mitch opened his folder. Schedules need to be posted at least 4 days out. Right now, we're getting them the night before. Sometimes after midnight. Gregory nodded. Noted. Bonnie added, we need a better way to swap shifts. Right now, it's texts and guessing who's available. Lewis chimed in. We're constantly out of stock. We had no backup bacon for 2 days last week. No onions 3 shifts in a row. I've already put in a revised ordering system, Naomi said, but we'll need someone to track usage daily. Volunteers. Emily raised her hand slowly. Gregory smiled. Appreciate that. The dishwasher, a soft-spoken man named Reggie, looked up from his chair. The back door latch sticks. It's a small thing, but it's been like that since before Christmas. Gregory scribbled. It's not small if it affects safety. I'll get a locksmith here today. Bonnie set her apron on her lap. Can we do something about the break policy? Right now, if we get a chance to sit, it's luck. You all need space to breathe, Gregory said. So starting today, every shift has a scheduled staggered break. Naomi will coordinate coverage. No more working 6 hours straight, Emily asked. No more working over 5 without a break, Naomi replied. The room was quiet again. This time, not from hesitation, just processing. Gregory sat down in one of the empty chairs across from them. I know this won't reverse the damage, but I also know most of you didn't stay here for the paycheck. You stayed because this place used to mean something. I want to earn back that meaning. Bonnie met his eyes. Then we'll hold you to it. Good, he said. You should. By 9:15, the first wave of customers started arriving. Gregory stayed on the floor with Mitch and Naomi, helping expedite plates and refill coffee. Bonnie was back on her section, but only covering half the tables she used to. Emily ran point at the host stand with Darnell shadowing her for support. For the first time in weeks, orders flowed without backups. The kitchen wasn't silent anymore, it was focused. By 10:30, a woman in her 60s came in and walked up to the counter. You're new, she asked Gregory as he wiped down menus. Not exactly, he said. Just back, she smiled. Well, the place feels different in a good way. Appreciate that. She glanced around. You brought that girl back, the one who used to wait our table on Sundays. She's good. Yes, Gregory said, she is. That afternoon, as things wound down, Naomi pulled Gregory aside. There's one thing we didn't cover. What's that? Craig's exit. The staff deserves transparency. Gregory nodded. You're right. He gathered the team again at the end of the lunch shift, not for a formal meeting, just a quiet check-in over staff drinks and granola bars near the prep station. I want to be clear about something, Gregory said. Craig won't be returning, not in any capacity. What he did, how he treated people, it's not just against company policy. It's against the values we say we have. No one interrupted. This isn't about holding grudges. It's about protecting the space you spend your lives in. You all deserve better than silence and workarounds. Reggie nodded slowly. That means something. After the staff dispersed, Gregory stepped into the office. He looked around at the now clean desk, the updated schedule pinned to the wall, and the fresh stack of employee feedback forms Naomi had printed. He sat at the desk and opened the top drawer, half expecting to find old receipts or outdated printouts. Instead, there was just a folded napkin with a handwritten note in tired ink. People stay where they're seen. They leave when they're ignored. No signature. Just the words. He placed it back in the drawer and closed it. The next morning, before sunrise, Gregory arrived again. Naomi was already setting up the till. Emily was prepping the coffee area. Lewis rolled his shoulders and cracked a small grin when he saw the grill had been cleaned thoroughly the night before. The day began, not perfectly, but honestly. And sometimes, that's the only thing a place needs to come back to life.